Alexander, good to have you on the show. Okay, so if you're going to go by Mao's words that the East is rising and the West is declining, how does this visit fit into the Ukraine conflict?
Well, I think it depends what you mean by the West. And the West, if you think about Europe, which is in relative decline, but United States is certainly not declining in any way comparable to Europe, for example. So, and the key kind of structural issue of international relations, of course, is the relations between China and United States, and they are been going steadily worsening for several years for a variety of reasons, and there's no hope of them improving. So the question is how China sees the conflict in Ukraine in its context of its relations with the broader West, but specifically with the United States. And I think there is not much room for China to really have a different opinion, but to formally stay neutral, but de facto support Russia in a way which is not kind of going off too much out of the way, but nevertheless making sure that the United States doesn't win in Ukraine.
Under this cloak of neutrality, we understand that the Chinese president is coming out with a 12-point plan that would essentially begin with a ceasefire. If that's the case, how likely, what position is the Russian president, Vladimir Putin, put in terms of wanting to seek additional military support? We know that he's gone out to Iran. We know that he's gone out to North Korea. Is he likely going to ask for military aid from China, you think?
Well, there are a lot of rumors about the extent the Koreans supplying ammo, or Chinese and so forth. I think there is quite a substantial economic relationship with China. China is the biggest trading partner for Russia. There is a military component to that. I think that's at the moment it's enough for Russia to sustain it, so it gets the essential ingredients for its economy, and then it will translate into a weapons program and so forth. I think if there was a really critical stage, which is nowhere near that yet, about shortages of ammunition and so forth, they might ask China for that help. But so far, the help, without even ostensibly selling weapons, but continuing trade, is actually quite sufficient for Russia so far. And I think this will continue. I think we'll see strengthening of that relationship for both strategic reasons and for practical reasons in terms of economy from both China and Russia.
Alexander, I don't know if you had a chance to listen to Malik Fuda's news story at the top of the show. There was a soundbite in there from John Kirby essentially saying that a proposed ceasefire from China would be essentially tantamount to a ratification of the Russian conquest, and that this would allow the Russian forces to remain in place and sort of occupy parts of a sovereign country. If you're President Putin, would you play this game?
Well, in terms of accepting Chinese proposals, but the Chinese proposals are deliberately formulated in an extremely vague sense. That means stop ceasefire and then negotiate, which might work for Putin advantage if it actually agreed to that. But there's absolutely no incentive for Ukraine so far to do it, and the United States, as you mentioned, quite determined to continue with its support of Ukraine, and they all hope that it will translate into substantial military gains on the battlefield. So while both sides can still expect some breakthrough on the military field, the Chinese plan will remain just neutral position, which might become relevant when both sides exhaust themselves and ask for mediation. But we just know when near sides, and both sides, I'm not just talking here, but also the United States, of course.
Okay, Alexander Titov, thank you very much for joining us here on the NewsHour. I do appreciate it.